our Global Week of Action opening ceremony. So if you could please just drop in the chat where you are joining us from. We are onboarding participants for a few more minutes. I'll start. I'm joining us from Portugal, and I'd love to know where all of you are located at the moment. Okay, so I see we have people from all over the world, from Japan to India to the USA, Egypt, England. Very happy to see that we have been able to reach so many regions. If you're new to, just to echo what Miss Martin is saying in the chat, if you're new to MUN Impact, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, and since we are still onboarding participants, people are still joining, I'm also going to ask you to drop in the chat where your favorite SDG is. I'm going to also start on this one. I'm a very indecisive person and I love SDGs 5, 16, and 3. So happy to see that you're passionate about so many SDGs. From 1 to 3, 4, 5, I see 10, I see 8, I see 14. That's great. And with that being said, we will start our Global Week of Action opening ceremony. So welcome everyone to Global Week of Action. My name is Rita, and I am one of the co-leads for Global Week of Action on Sustainable Development Goal 5. I am 17 years old, and besides being the co-lead for Global Week of Action SDG 5, I'm also the co-deputy secretary general for the Europe region in the Munich Global Outreach Program, and I'm also the MUN Impact Global lead for the community magazine. And now I'll hand the floor over to my co-lead Maya.
Hey everyone, I'm really excited to be here today. My name is Maya, I'm 17 years old. I'm a high school senior from Egypt, and I'm also the second co-lead for Global Week of Action SDG 5. And besides being the co-lead, I'm also a discussion leader, and I'm an editor for the 100K Lead newspaper, and I'm also the DSG of IT for Omen. Thank you.
So we are going to start by kind of talking about our program for the next 2 weekends. So yesterday we had our optional MUN Impact information session, which was great. Today we have our opening ceremony and keynote address, which is happening right now. We are very happy to have Miss Sasha John from Slam Out Loud to give our keynote address. Then later we have the 100K Leads Challenge session, and we are very happy to that and we would be so happy to have you all there as well. Tomorrow we have our SDG Sandbox, which I'll talk more in depth about. In a minute, we have our workshop by Passion for Women's Health and the 100 Key Deeds Challenge. And then we have an open forum about the importance of female participation in leadership and decision making. I'm a bit biased, but I love open forums. I've been the lead for open forums for other Global Weeks of Action. This forum is going to be talking about SDG targets, I believe, 2, involving women in leadership and decision making, and he's going to feature panelists like Salam Al Nukta, Olaula Abagun, Deborah Pham, and also Gori Nimbalkar. And Maya, do you want to talk about the second weekend?
Okay, so for the second weekend, we have a workshop by Girl Up Pakistan, and we're also having a workshop by Miss Myra Gonzalez and Diego. I'm sorry, I can't read the name, and it's about the empowerment through women's action. We also have a presentation about creating impact and taking action for SDG 5 in our community. And we have an SDG Sandbox, which is the final event next Saturday. And then on Sunday, we have our open forum about empowering women and promoting gender equality through STEM, and a workshop by Green Life for Girls, social hour, and our closing ceremony and Dolphin pool. We hope to see you there.
Yes, and just to build off of what Maya said, for open forum on Sunday, this one is going to be about women in STEM and empowering women through science education. And we will have we will be joined by panelists Erica Burnell, Jada Bueno, and Srishti Arora. We'll talk about this very important topic. So yes, we hope to see you there. And next up, so a sneak peek into our Dolphin Pool and Sandbox sessions, because if you're new here, if this is your first Global Week of Action, or you've never been to an MUN Impact Summit, you might not be familiar with this concept, but Sandbox is basically an event where people join us from all over the world. They form groups and they work on a solution, a project for different sustainable development goals. For instance, this session will be obviously about SDG 5. So people create a group, they work on a template that we have where they can kind of create a project to solve it. And if they're successful in finishing this template before the last day of our Global Week of Action, they'll be able to present in our Dolphin Pool session, where we'll be joined by experts and women entrepreneurs this time around that will give feedback to people on their projects. It's like a less competitive, more friendly, more feedback-based version of Shark Tank. So with that being said, and with this presentation being over, I'd like to hand the floor over to Ms. Sasha John from Sign Out Loud, who will be giving our keynote address.
Hi, thank you so much, Rita, for introducing me and for that presentation. I wish I was a high school student again to be able to attend such programs. Hi, everyone, and good afternoon or evening, wherever you are. I'm really glad to be here. Can everyone hear me okay? I'm the Development and Partnerships Associate at Sign Out Loud, and I'm excited to have this moment right now to talk to you all, not just about what we do at Sign Out Loud, but also the use and furthermore importance of the arts in self-expression and gender equity education. So to set the stage a bit, Sign Out Loud was born out of the simple notion that every individual should and does have a voice that empowers them, and that one of the more fundamental ways to access that voice and also use it is through the arts. Our underlying belief is that any sort of inclination towards the arts and towards a culture of mutual care and understanding should be nurtured and prioritized, seen not just as nice to haves or supplementary, but as must-haves. Because what is the point of creating, disrupting, which is a big buzzword for our day and age, or working and living, if we do not have the capacity to appreciate that which is around us, in others, and also within ourselves. So the idea for Slime Out Loud came to one of our co-founders, Jigyasa Labru, as she was teaching in a school in the conflict area of Kashmir in 2016 as part of the Teach for India Fellowship. She decided to bring a poetry exercise into her class of 60 girls, hoping to provide an outlet for them to express their emotions. She expected, like possibly anyone would, that the girls would talk of emotions that one could relate to childhood. So those of joy, wonder, and friendship. But instead, what came out was mostly pain, anger, and sadness. It led her to the realization of how important the creation of such safe spaces are for children to express themselves, but also to use the power of arts itself to enable that safe expression. Today, Slime Out Loud is a 5-year-old nonprofit based in Delhi, India, that uses the transformative power of the arts to help children from disadvantaged communities build creative confidence, which is what we consider a combination of 21st century and socio-emotional skills like communication, collaboration, and empathy, etc. Utilizing elements of visual arts, poetry, storytelling, and theater, we work with professional artists to engage these underserved children and also build curricula and e-learning resources to help them better access socio-emotional skills that they need to achieve better life outcomes. While our primary focus is the development of SEL skills, we see this as integral to and entwined with an education on what surrounds and affects these children in real life. So we've also created arts-based resources to make them more aware of and help them be able to talk about social justice issues like climate change and gender discrimination. I could go on and on about all of our different interventions at Slime Out Loud, but today I will be focusing on our facilitator training program, Meri Awaz, which means my voice in Hindi. Early last year, Slime Out Loud partnered with Girl Rising to create an arts-based curriculum on gender equity catered to children 8 and up. Available in English, Hindi, and Kannada, these activities are based around 6 stories from the popular Girl Rising documentary that have been condensed into 3 to 4 minute stories in Hindi and English. These 6 audio capsules each contain real-life stories of girls from around the world, and talk about everything from education, gender-based violence, to early and forced child marriage, early pregnancies, and menstrual health. What Slime Out Loud does is train these facilitators from these communities that we want to target on how to best impart this knowledge to the children they reach. And then we walk them through how to best run the arts activities in their classrooms as well. The facilitators then conduct these sessions with the children in their community, and the program is structured where each session revolves around one audio capsule as a starting point, and then followed by complementary arts-based activities after. What we're aiming to do with Meri Awaz, like so many people that are working towards the SDG of gender equality, is educate, engage, and empower adolescents by leveraging storytelling and impactful media tools, and inspire them to dream bigger for themselves. We're doing this by walking them through the realities of young girls similar to them and helping them draw parallels with their own experiences or what they've witnessed. Our hope is to help both boys and girls to understand the negative effects of existing gender norms and biases and the impact of gender discrimination and how all of that intersects. And if they're able to use art as an advocacy tool towards these issues, we're all the better for it. I'm extremely proud to say that Meri Awaz has reached 22,000 children through 278 facilitators from 11 on-the-ground partners in 8 Indian states. We're still in the middle of our program, so we haven't yet conducted our end-line assessment of the children's attitudes towards gender discrimination and bias and evaluate if their understanding has shifted or not. But we are already seeing some positive and heartwarming responses from and reactions to the program. Slime Out Loud staff and even some of the facilitators were apprehensive about the reception of such a program in the communities they were going to teach in. These topics are still very much taboo and considered controversial or nonsensical even in certain rural settings. But we hope that because we were reaching these students through facilitators from the community, that existing bond of trust and recognition would translate. And it did translate, even after much skepticism from elders in the community, in such a weirdly wonderful way. In these rural communities, it's hard to find a place to conduct these sessions. Classrooms are sparse, there aren't that many schools, there aren't that many decent facilities to have these classes. So what a lot of facilitators do is they conduct them out in the open with the children, which doesn't offer necessarily a physical safe space for these children. But what we noticed is that other older community members were intrigued by what was happening, and they would sit down and join these sessions as well. So what was initially seen as a tool of education and advocacy for young boys and girls is now also one for adults who wish to be part of the sessions. One of the audio stories is actually about Roxana, a young girl who gets reported to her parents from her school administration for not paying attention as she's busy drawing during class. Instead of getting mad at her, her parents buy her art supplies and encourage her to pursue her passion, as long as she also tries to pay attention in school, which is fair. Many facilitators have told us that this particular story struck a chord with many students, specifically girls in the classroom, and they've voiced how they think more parents should support their daughters this way. The facilitators have also noticed how children are much more shy about engaging verbally in class, to talk so openly about their opinions and views. But when they're asked to draw them out or to use art to express themselves, something as simple as what they want to be in the future, they're much more open to leaning into that. What we're trying to do at Slam Out Loud is not revolutionary. It's basically pairing a cultural activity that has been around since early humankind lived in caves with the distinct practice of understanding all that is around us that affects us. In fact, refined by the data that we collect before, during, and after our programs, our content and programs are really quite simple and are created in a way that is supposed to be replicable. An individual artwork might be unique, but the process of producing is not in a way, and it should be made accessible and relevant even outside of the promise of creating something valuable. Art is fun, plain and simple, and it greatly helps that it also is a medium for change and self-development. Upskilling vulnerable children with classes on technical knowledge and traditional learning is important, perhaps even more future-proof. But nothing can ever take away from the joy and peace that comes with creating something that is your own, either for yourself or for your community. That's why we do what we do at Slam Out Loud, and that's why we encourage those like yourselves who have solutions to work towards the UN SDGs to think, without being so obvious about this, creatively. Thank you so much for your time and for making this space for me to talk about Slam Out Loud and what we do. I'm happy to take any questions that any of you have.
Thank you so much, Ms. John. That was a beautiful statement about such incredible work from Slam Out Loud. It's very interesting to see how art and creativity can help us achieve the SDGs, and mainly here SDG 5. I don't know if any of our participants have any questions about Slam Out Loud, their work, the keynote talk that Ms. John just gave, but you're more than welcome to raise your hands, and we will be entertaining a couple of them if there's no issue with you, Ms. John.
Please, happy to.
Or you could also drop them in the chat if you want to.
Yes.
Okay, so okay, you can take it.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to read it from the chat. Yes, so thank you for your question, Lisa. How did the pandemic affect Slam Out Loud's work? It actually did affect our work in quite a significant way. So a lot of our programs before the pandemic were in person. We would do these fellowship programs where we sent artists to low-income schools and have them do after-school art activities with the children. We would have, in-person training and in-person interaction with the children. And so the pandemic definitely affected us very significantly, where we were now in the situation where everything had to go online and children were just stuck at home with no actual outlet the way that we provided for them before. So what we did actually is create this sort of group of activities that we have put under an umbrella called Arts for All. And it's bite-sized little art activities that is shared over WhatsApp and radio and state education portals in, I think, 5 different languages, Indian languages, that we created during the pandemic so that it would be accessible to children. So a lot of governments and nonprofit organizations came to us wanting these resources, and they're disseminated to the children that these institutions reach via WhatsApp or whatever portals that they have. And now what we're trying to do is to add a human element to that, which is include these sort of facilitated sessions that facilitators lead with the children in addition to these activities that we created previously, so that there's a little bit more hand-holding with the children and to do the activities as well. So yeah, it was just innovating on the fly really about how we could take our in-person stuff online.
And I have another question for you. Someone sent it to me on the chat. Does Slam Out Loud plan to expand, and how could students in India support your organization, get involved?
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for that question. We are always on the lookout for volunteers, facilitators, even interns. And we're expanding in a pretty big way, actually, with more people noticing our work and wanting to fund it. We actually went from a 5-person team to a 12-person team this year, being able to take on more volunteers and interns. So if you are interested in getting involved with our work, you are more than welcome to reach out to us on any of our social media platforms. I will send all of them in the chat box. And whenever we're hiring for interns or we're looking for volunteers to specifically support any programs that we do, you're more than welcome to apply or reach out to us personally. We're always on the lookout for help as we reach more children.
That's great. Thank you so much for answering those questions. And thank you for dropping your social media on the chat. Does anyone else have any questions? Once again, we have another question from Zane, who sent it to me privately. Are they planning on, are you planning on expanding to different countries, Slam Out Loud, or are you planning to just keep your work within India?
Great question. And that's something that we have been really toying with over the past year, especially with the pandemic, and especially realizing just how many more children we can reach with our online programs. So currently, a lot of our programs are in-person programs, and our facilitated sessions are specifically based in India, just because everyone has the same time zone. So it's like much easier to like carry out these sessions and stuff. But we are always open to some sort of partnership cross-culturally, across borders as well. If there's something that we can do over Zoom, if there's an opportunity for some of us to even come out there and help out, like more than happy to have that conversation with whoever is interested. Arts is one of those things that's like extremely universal. No matter where you go, people want to do it, children want to do it, and children love it. So and while we don't have plans right now, we are always open to a conversation about that.
That sounds great. And before we move on to another question from Ms. Martin, I also, sorry, Ms. Martin, but I'm going to interject and add here a question for someone else who sent it to me privately. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say people's names when they send it to me privately, so I'm just going to read the question. This person wants to know, what is something you've learned while doing Slam Out Loud, and how do you introduce art to children doubting themselves?
Yeah, that is a very good question. So I'm going to answer that by talking a little bit about why I joined Slam Out Loud in the first place. So just a little bit about me. I don't want to take up too much time in my speech talking about myself, but I graduated from college in the US in 2019 in a social science background, and I worked in the areas of supply chain consulting and at a big tech company. And what I found was that sort of work, as noble as it all was, and as much as, a lot of people do enjoy that, like it just wasn't speaking to me personally. I just couldn't wake up in the morning and kind of justify what I was doing. I was like, I want to be able to be out there helping people, helping young people like myself figure out things and work towards solutions to make the world a better place. And And that was around the time that I saw a job opening at Slam Out Loud, luckily, and that's why I applied, because I really resonated with the message that they had. Writing for me has personally been something that has gotten me through a lot, and I was just very excited to see an organization that wanted to use art in any way, shape, or form to help children who were going through similar things that we all go through that maybe we just don't think about, right? So working at Slam Out Loud has shown me that it is very easy to dismiss that children from certain communities don't feel the things that we do. Like, it's very easy, especially in a country like India, to say that mental health is an upper class issue. It's an issue that people with a certain background can take care of or think about. But that's not true. There are lots of kids in marginalized communities and vulnerable communities who also deal with issues of mental health and well-being and have self-esteem issues and want to learn how to be more empathetic and collaborative and creative. And what we've seen through the sort of testimonials that we get from both facilitators and students is that the arts bring them so much joy. And it brings them so much joy that someone cares enough to ask them these important questions, to ask them how they're doing, to ask them whether they think it's fair that girls don't get to go to school and boys do, And one of the testimonies that we read from one of the facilitators was that one of the children came up to her after the class and was like, "Thank you for asking us these questions," because no one ever really does. Like, it was just so unusual for them to have adults ask them what they think about things. And so something I've learned is that I think the universal experience of being a child anywhere is very much that. It's universal, and we need to be, and it's also very contextual to depend into what those children are going through, right? So I think whatever solutions we come up with needs to be catered to those situations, but also we need to come at it with like a universal lens of everyone kind of feels the same way. So yeah, that's what I've taken from my time at Slam Out Loud.
Thank you, that sounds great. And with that being said, we have a final question. I believe this is the last one from Ms. Martin, who asks, if a student in India wants to bring Slam Out Loud to their school, can people just contact you, or do you focus on certain cities or regions in India?
Oh, very interesting question. So we don't specifically have a focus on any city or region. It definitely helps if we know on the ground partners in a specific state. That way we are able to like implement our programs through those partners. But if you want to bring Slam Out Loud to your school, we're more than happy to like have that conversation to see how best we can engage with your school. Our focus right now is a lot of low income and government schools, but we also do work with private schools or slightly higher income schools as well for things like workshops or after school activities and things. So yeah, there's no specific city or region of focus. It's just whether or not we have a partnership in that area. And if your school is willing to be in partnership with Slam Out Loud, we're happy to entertain a conversation about it.
That sounds great. Thank you so much once again. I believe there are no other questions. If you have one, please raise your hand now, drop it in the chat, or forever hold your peace. I'm giving you like a minute to do so, but I just like to once again thank Ms. John and Slam Out Loud for their time and for being here and sharing what their work, their mission, and what they're doing to advance SDG 5. Hopefully, all our participants today are going to leave inspired by these reports. So I believe there are no other questions for Ms. John. So before we finish this session, I'm going to ask if anyone else has if anyone has a question for me, Maya, and the MUN Impact Global Week of Action leadership team about Global Week of Action or MUN Impact in general, we are happy to answer your questions about this weekend or any of our programs. So yes, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to drop them in the chat or just raise your hand, whatever you see fit. And if you have any questions, please let us know. We will be able to and happy to answer them. If you do have a question and you don't get around to asking them now, if you should probably have my email, because it's in every one of the link emails, but I'm dropping it in the chat so you can send me something. And I'll try to answer them. So we got a question, can I get a certificate after the completion of this course? If you attend any Glow Week of Action workshop, you should eventually receive a badge sometime after the sessions. I'm not sure what the processing time for badges is, but please allow up to a month before emailing us. But if you don't get it within a month, then please email someone and we will try to get that issue fixed. Any other questions? Yes, as Ms. Martin said, you can download it. Okay, so I believe there are no other questions about Glow Week of Action or MUN Impact. If you have something, once again, you can always email me from where? You can always email me and I'll, or use one of the email accounts that are listed on our website for specific programs, and we will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much for attending, and I believe that with that, our session is over. You're free to leave or to ask any other final questions. Thank you so much for attending.